What's going on, everybody? Roll this up here. Oh, you can see my nasty cables and stuff on my TV. Hold on, let's turn that over. Can't see the TV hanging from the wall. What's up, everybody? Let me move this over here so I'm not looking sideways. Right. See what we got coming on. So many things going on. I don't know if I can keep up with everything. Why is this still loading? Still acting like people are not in. Let me just shut something else down. If you guys are watching and you're in, I can see that I have viewers, but the chat and comments have not loaded yet on the page. So if you're saying anything I can't see, let me open up Facebook in another tab and see if I can watch from there. See how that works. Hey, Carla, you liked it. I see you there. I don't know if you're commenting or not. Got me in as watching myself. Aha, cool. Look at that. All right. Oh, this is actually a good way for me to test and see what the delay is. It's like 30 seconds. Interesting. Okay, we are talking about three metabolic pathways today. We're going to talk about how does our body utilize fuel. Okay. Um, I was initially just going to talk about, like I said, three metabolic pathways, and as we got closer here, I was wondering if I should also kind of talk about oxidative priority, or if I should talk about that in another talk. Um, let's do that in another talk. If you haven't heard about what oxidative priority is, then we'll talk. I'll just briefly. That is basically the way that your body prioritizes how it's going to utilize macronutrients as they come into the system. Okay, so that's more of a priority of if I have this available, what am I going to use? We'll talk about that. I'll add that to the list. We'll talk about that next week. Oxidative priority. There's a lot of cool stuff with that. That kind of really goes into how to manage your body composition. That a lot of people kind of get mixed up and confused, particularly as always when it comes to protein. Protein is often misrepresented when it comes to oxidative priority. So we'll talk about that next week because we can talk. That'll be a good long talk. All right. This week we're going to talk about three metabolic pathways. This has been touched on in previous talks when I've talked about the components of fitness. We've talked about how your program should be varied and have different time modalities, short workouts and long workouts and medium length workouts and things like that. The reason for that variation when we talk about what your program should include and why I include that very same variation in the Apex at Home program is because our body uses fuel for different types of work. Okay. We basically have three types of fuel. Okay. Which is kind of weird, right? Wait, what do you mean we have three types of fuel? I thought just fat and carbs were fuel because remember, protein isn't a fuel. When I say three types of fuel, I'm not talking about protein. Okay. Protein is not a fuel. Remember that. Use that, live that as life. You cannot get fat off of protein because your body doesn't store it as stored fuel because it stores it as muscle, not fuel. Very different thing. Okay. Your whole body is a protein storage device, i.e. muscle. Cool? Remember that. All right. When we talk about fuel, we're talking about fat, we're talking about carbs. Okay. We're also talking about something called ATP, adenosine triphosphate, right? For ATP for short, as you can see why I say ATP. ATP is essentially the core, the base fuel that is always being used by your body. What? Okay. Mitochondria, without getting too crazy here, mitochondria don't actually use glycogen or fat for fuel. They use glycogen and fat to convert it to ATP. That's what powers our body. Okay. So when we talk about using carbs and fat for fuel, what we're really saying is our body's going to use carbs and fat and break them apart, break those molecules apart, and use those molecules to create and generate ATP, which is the actual component material that our body uses to drive energy, to drive movement, to drive growth. That's what our body uses to do stuff with ATP. Okay. So when we are working out, when we are doing things with our body, okay, the first fuel that our body wants to use is stored ATP. We have ATP that's stored in our muscles, it's ready to go. We say, I'm going to jump as high as possible. That is ATP. Your body's using it. It's quick, it's done, it's gone. Your body then has to go to glycogen or fat and create more. Okay. ATP is primarily used as the primary fuel without any other conversion of macronutrients. Okay. Just the stored ATP is primarily used for short efforts of work in the anywhere from zero to 10, 15, 20-second range. Quick, short, burst work or really heavy lifting. If I get something really heavy and I pull it really hard as fast as possible, it takes me 15 seconds to pick it up. That was ATP. Okay. ATP takes about 2 minutes or so to replenish using fat or glycogen, fat or carbs. Okay. To be able to do that again. So if I lift something really heavy, I use up my ATP stores in those muscles that I used. If I wait 2 minutes or so, I can do that again and I'm using ATP again. Okay. It's used a lot by power lifters. It's used a lot by people that are doing short, quick burst work. Okay. So that's something to keep in mind. It's a good thing to understand because you're understanding now where fat and carbs go to. When we talk about our body burning fuel, we're not actually using carbs for fuel. We're using carbs to create the fuel that our body's going to use. Okay. There's actually two conversions that we have in our body, particularly when it comes to carbs. Okay. Uh, it is possible for our body to turn fat into glycogen in order for glycogen to be used for ATP. It is possible, and it happens for our bodies to use carbs and turn that into glycogen. It's a lot easier and faster um, to do that, but it creates more inflammation, and there's some other issues there. To use carbs to replenish glycogen to be used for ATP. Okay, um, why is that important? That is important to know for two reasons. One, the next metabolic pathway that we have is called the glycolytic pathway. That is glycolytic, means glycogen. Okay, that is anywhere from that 15, 20 seconds to about a minute, I want to say. It's variable, but yeah, to about a minute. So from 15 to 20 seconds to about a minute of effort, 100-meter sprint, 200-meter sprint, 300-meter sprint, um, going 30 seconds as hard as you can on an air bike, things like that, right? That is using glycogen primarily as the fuel source, store glycogen in your muscles, okay, in your blood. Now, here's where things get really cool, okay? Glycogen is the substrate that's used to generate ATP, not carbs. Okay. Remember that. Carbs don't go into your system and then straight into ATP. Carbs become glycogen. Fat can become glycogen. Okay. Glycogen is the substrate that's used. Gluconeogenesis, everybody's heard that word. It's the word that everybody's afraid of with protein. If you do that, it's going to turn all your protein into glycogen. Okay. Negative. If you have fat available, gluconeogenesis will use fat instead of protein to create glycogen. Okay. What does this mean? What this means, and this is the cool part, what this means is that if you are low carb, if you are not eating a lot of carbs, which most of us in here aren't, okay, your body will turn fat into glycogen so that you can do work in the glycolytic pathway without feeling like crap. Okay, you're going to have the energy you need because your body is going to fill up your glycogen stores using fat. No, none of us here are working out so hard or are so lean, okay, that we don't have enough fat on our bodies for our bodies to work in the glycolytic pathway without eating carbs. Okay, I hope that made sense. Um, the phosphogene ATP system uses ATP. The glycolytic pathway, which is you're doing a little bit more work than you would just using the stored ATP. I'm using glycogen now. It's shorter, faster, harder work. I'm using glycogen, but I can get that glycogen from my fat. Okay. This is the second reason why this is important is because it's another way to increase the amount of things that are requesting your body fat to be used. Okay. We often think of the next pathway, which we're going to talk about, the endurance or oxidative pathway. We often think of cardio as being the only way, the best way to burn fat. Okay. If you're low carb, if you're not stuffing carbs in your face and carbs are turning into glycogen in your body, and that's replenishing your glycogen stores. If you're not doing that and you're fat adapted and you're doing work in the short ranges, okay, both the really short, heavy work that's fast and hard, and the interval, high intensity, 30-second to a minute, minute and a half type work that's also really hard, and your body doesn't have a lot of carbs, your body's going to use fat for glycogen. It's going to use fat for glycogen and turn it into ATP and use it in all three levels. Okay. So that's why this is important to understand. Your body can use fat for everything. Yay. Okay. So let's talk about the next phase. There's a cool thing with the next phase. The oxidative pathway, the third pathway, is the long pathway. It's like the pathway that once you're done, if you're doing any kind of work after about a minute and a half, minute, maybe 2 minutes for some things, everyone's a little different. Let's just say after about 2 minutes of doing whatever work you're doing, if you're still doing that work, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, you're going for a run, whatever it may be, okay? That's oxidative. You're burning fat, primarily fat for fuel. That's really what it is. Um, there's a lot more that goes into it as far as what muscles you're using and things like that. And then this is where the variation comes into play, okay? Which we'll talk about in a second. The oxidative pathway, the fat burning pathway, is basically where we are a majority of the time. Think about that. The oxidative pathway, the fat burning pathway, is where we are a majority of the time. A majority of the time, we're not doing high intense, heavy, or fast work. When I'm going about my day all day long, I'm not lifting things heavy as heavy as I can, and I'm not moving as fast and quickly as I can in an interval kind of scenario. So I'm not doing a lot of ATP work that's required, and I'm not doing a lot of work that requires glycogen. Most of the stuff that I do daily about my day is fat burning work. Okay. Something that a lot of people don't talk about. Okay. You are mostly in the fat burning stage if you are primarily fat adapted. Okay. If you're shoving carbs in your face, then based on what we'll talk about next week with oxidative priority, your body's going to kind of override this whole process and burn carbs instead. Okay, we'll talk about that next week. That's what oxidative priority is. Okay, so the oxidative pathway is the fat burning pathway. If you are fat adapted, you are in that pathway all day long. Okay, remember that you're in that thing all day long. What is the one thing that you can do to increase the amount of energy that your body requires all day long while you're already in the fat burning pathway? Does anybody know? Give me a thumbs up of a high five, something. If any whoever's watching, I'll tell you anyways. Okay, build lean mass. The more lean mass, the more muscle mass you have, the more energy is going to be required to maintain your energy requirements throughout the day. Since you're already in the oxidative pathway, that means you are going to increase the amount of fat that your body uses just by sitting on your booty because you have more things asking for it. The more muscle you have, the higher your energy demand. Okay. That is amazeballs. All right. Okay. So when we talk about these three things, okay, we summarize real quick and then we'll talk about why variety is important. We talk about the ATP pathway, short, heavy, fast. We talk about the glycolytic pathway, short, a little bit longer than ATP, but it's fast, it's quick, usually interval training, things like that. Okay. 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off, 30 seconds, a minute, do whatever. You can mix and match all of these at the same time. Okay. That's what's really cool. A good functional fitness program, okay, like, I don't know, the at home, Apex at home program, is going to give you a variety of things where you're going to do a 5 minute workout that's going to hit ATP and glycolytic, but it may not get into oxidative necessarily on that day. The next day, you may do a 15 or 20-minute workout that hits ATP, glycolytic, and oxidative throughout the entire workout. It is possible to go back and forth within any given workout and hit all three of these at the same time if you have a good program. Okay. Yes, Alana, more muscle. Yay, you got it. Um, so that's where variety comes into play. You do not want to always do cardio because if you always do cardio, the really sucky thing about doing cardio all the time, if you're thinking, I got to lose fat, I'm going to get on the treadmill, I'm going to walk or run a 5K every 4 or 5 days a week, whatever it may be, because I want to burn my calories, it doesn't work that way. When you're doing oxidative work, extra, you're not really doing that much extra because think about this, you're already in the oxidative pathway all day anyways. You're not doing that much more than what you would be doing if you just walked around the house a little bit. Okay. Particularly when it comes to traditional cardio type exercises, where really you're just moving your legs and arms faster. You're getting your lungs to go harder and you're getting your heart to work more, but you're not increasing your lean mass. You're not increasing your range of movement and you're not really demanding more energy after the workout. While you're working, you're asking for energy. That's great. Okay. Here's the thing, your body gets better at using energy the more cardio you do. So the more cardio you do, the less energy you use over time. Think about that. The reason we do cardio is to get better at energy consumption, get more efficient, be able to last longer and go further. Okay. That means the energy we're using to do the same amount of work is decreasing. So the more cardio I do, my return on investment, right? My benefit over time drastically reduces the more and longer I do it. Okay. How do we combat that? How do we take advantage of the way the body uses energy? Lift weights. And I've said this, maybe I've said this before, I've said this on videos before, right? It's kind of cliche and it's been made kind of fun of, but this is really how it works. If you want to utilize all three metabolic pathways in the best way possible, lift weights fast. That's really it. Okay. Because you're going to engage the ATP pathway, you're going to engage the glycolytic pathway, and you're going to enhance the oxidative pathway by building muscle at the same time as you're asking your body to burn fat. Okay. So a functional fitness program that includes high intensity interval training, functional movements. Okay. Those are the movements we talked about before in the video on the essential movements, right? Squatting, lunging, hinging, pulling, pushing, twisting, and walking, right? Those are the things that we need to be able to do with weight under stress. When you do those things in your exercises, you are doing more to burn fuel in all of the different ways that your body can burn fuel. So you want to get good at doing things short and heavy. You want to get good at doing things fast and hard. And you want to get good at doing things over endurance time frame with some stamina. Okay. So I hope that wasn't too complicated. Um, I'm trying to provide you guys with information without making it too convoluted and getting too sciencey. My goal is to kind of bring this stuff home so people understand how things fit and can apply it to their everyday life. So you have practical things to go home and, or well, since you're at home now, probably, that you have practical things that you can take with you and kind of wrap your head around why things are working the way that they're working, right? Do you guys have any questions? If you do, let me know. If you don't, give me a thumbs up. Um, like I said, we'll talk about oxidative priority next week. I think that'll be a little really interesting one for you guys because I know when I first learned about it, it was like, what in the world? Um, I'll wait because like I said, there's like a 30-second delay. Here, no, come back. Trying to find the group again. I lost the group. We can see and hear you. Thank you, Carla. Alana said more muscle. All right, I don't have any more questions. Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to let it close with that. If you have questions after watching this on the replay, just post them in the comments or just ask random stuff in the group. That's how this group works. Ask random stuff. Okay. Don't forget the 8-week Get Strong Challenge starts April 1st. If you are not signed up for the Apex at Home program, that is how you get started with it. You have to be signed up for the program. You have to log within the program. You have to log 3 workouts a week for April and May. And then whoever has the highest percentage of lean mass gain in those 2 months is going to have me come visit you to do a workout, get some personal coaching, maybe eat some steaks, and have a good time. All right. So, along with some prizes, we got some keto chow prizes, we got some Redmond real salt prizes, and I'm working on some keto bricks too. So, all right, take it easy, guys. See you.